To me, the rebel is someone who's able to dream outside the box and back themselves as they pursue a vision. It's not about breaking the rules, but about telling a story and finding out what you're capable of. In this podcast, I'll be speaking to filmmakers, creatives, and entrepreneurs, people who carved out their own path and face the unavoidable reality that if we want to fuck the system, we're going to have to take it out for dinner first. Just a little story, a little perceptual story of mine.
Okay.
The way that I see you before we start, it's like talking about kind of where we come from, which is here, here in Burnie. You know, we were born in the same year. We were brought up in the same place.
Yeah.
We even went to the same childcare together.
We did.
Shout out to Alexander Beetlehouse.
The memes.
So we've kind of known each other, I'd say, adjacently.
Yeah.
For a lot of years. It was and if I'm going to be completely honest, it wasn't until many years later that you kind of really came back into my consciousness. It was like, you know, maybe back 2013, somewhere around that time. You know, I was living in Launceston at the time, but suddenly you popped up in my news feed on Facebook and you started popping up regularly as this kind of like loud and eccentric, at least from my perception, DJ by the name of -1.
That's the one.
But there's something a little bit different about what you were doing. It was like it gained a kind of silent nod of approval from me at the time. It was like, because unlike many other pop-up DJs, pop-up local DJs, what you were doing, it seemed interesting, and I think most importantly, it seemed authentic. And it's been many years since then, and this club DJ gig of yours has grown into something. You've got 25,000 followers on SoundCloud. You've been in top Australia charts. You've been in top charts in England, I believe. And it's like you've a bunch of different stuff. You've also graduated in your Bachelor of Psychology Science.
Yes. And
you've become absolutely shredded. a lot has happened, and then one last thing is like in the middle of that somewhere we caught up for a coffee date, probably our first proper conversation since Alexander Beetlehouse back in the day. I'm sure we had proper conversations back then, but
yes, we were definitely debating Sisyphus at the age of 4.
But something really stuck out with me in that conversation that we had down at the foreshore down in Burnie, and you explained to me the concept of the Japanese ikigai.
Yes.
And that is something that has stayed with me ever since, but also something that I think maybe allowed me to understand you and your intentions and your trajectory a little bit more. And firstly, I'm wondering if you could reiterate that concept for me. I'm not sure how much you've thought about it lately. You know?
Yeah.
So, reiterate that concept for me. And then also speak to me about how important alignment is in your life and career.
Yeah. So Ikigai has 4 tenements, and I've got to remember what they are now. So it is doing what you love, doing what you can get paid for, doing what benefits the world, and love, paid, benefit.
And what you're good at.
And what you're good at. There we go. That's the last
It stuck
one.
with me, remember?
Yeah. And yeah, it speaks to alignment 100%. So when it comes to living in alignment with yourself, it means not so much of going, all right, I have a goal, I'm going to go chase it. Because anyone can set goals. Anyone can go, I would like to, say, for example, get shredded. But why the hell are you doing it? Like, what does it actually fulfill? And so each of the things that I've done in my life, and like you've just described, it seems like this weird mishmash of things that I've done, which is, this loud, brash DJing to...
Brash is a better word. But
to, getting a psych degree and, working in mental health currently and doing support work, and then... then also going to the gym. They're 3 things that seem like they shouldn't work together, but they work together in a sense of they are things that I'm good at because they're challenges. They are things that I've recognized that if I'm going to go and do these are things that are going to light me up because 1, I have the passion for it. 2, and this is going back to Ikigai, so the passion I have for it, it lights me up. I really enjoy it. To the way I can get paid for it in a sense of doing mental health stuff. As it is, I go on the road and I do mental health first aid training sessions, so I get paid in that sense. And with DJing, I go and travel and get paid to do that sort of thing. The way it benefits the world as well is that through what I do, I can then communicate back to others and go, look, this is not just possible for me. You can do this as well. Even if it's not specifically what I'm doing, there is going to be something in your life that you want to do that you're going to look at and go, this mightn't be possible, but I want to prove to the point that you can do it, and you can be anyone from anywhere that can go and do it. And I'm trying to remember that last point again. So passion, pay, benefit the world.
What you're naturally good at as well.
Yeah, what you're naturally good at. And so then that's just going down to the point of I enjoy interacting with people, hence coming here today. I enjoy interacting with people and being able to provide something for them that just is comfort. Comfort and understanding and reassurance and just joy in their lives. And so that's why I've gone and done the things that I can. And because I've done that and recognized all these individual elements, that's where it comes down to alignment. So that's how you can have three quite bizarre, things that don't seem to join up, but actually do join up because it's the alignment. It's the things that I'm good at, things that I have passion for, that end up making them all make sense together.
And you can get paid for them, which is especially in this economy is very very important. We got to have a job, we got to work, we got to make money. We got to accumulate our own resources. But I think you made a really pertinent point in the middle of that. It was there's something that is just so organically inspirational about a person that is in this, this alignment that we speak of, this spiritual alignment that we speak of. It's hard to define what exactly that is, but I feel like we can sense it, we can see it. I feel like that's what that knot of improvement was for me many, many years ago. I saw a guy that was just going, fuck the public approval or lack thereof. I'm just going to go out and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it properly. I'm going to create a proper brand. I'm going to go and be a proper club DJ. And right from the psych stuff to the continuation of the club DJ stuff, which has brought you all around Australia and it's brought you internationally as well. It's like it's amazing to see, but there's something that is just intrinsically inspirational about that. And I think you made mention to that. It's like by living your life, by living an aligned life, by living a life that is tailored to you, you are naturally helping the world just by doing that, because you are inspiring other people around you. You are showing that it is okay to do things different. It is okay to do things that are more idiosyncratic and suited to you. And I think that that Ikigai that you explained to me years ago, I don't think it would have stuck in if it was explained to somebody who wasn't living a life of alignment. I think the fact that you're able to quote that and show me what the Ikigai is, but you're also living it, I think that's the reason that it sticks in. And I have a pretty strong feeling that you've given a lot of other people some pretty relevant and impactful quotes along the years as well. But that is something that you do as well. You do like the quote. I've read through some of your blogs and finding you've mined out quotes and you've used them along the way, and it's like, what is this search for knowledge for you? Where does that come from? This search for knowledge that has brought you into the psychology degree, and outside of just helping people, are there any other motivations behind it?
Understanding the world. I've always been a person that has always asked the question, why? And it's gotten me in a lot of trouble over the years. And it's also put me in awkward positions, because if you always ask the question why, people feel as if they are being undermined. And I've learnt over the years when to ask and when not to ask. But through asking why means you start to discover the deeper things about life. I'd never accepted that life should be a simple pattern of you wake up in the morning, you go to your day job, you do the same thing every single day, every single week. You get to the weekend, do your house chores, maybe play a game of footy or something like that. And that's not to diss playing footy. I do enjoy watching sports. But I never believed that that should be the way to live life because it just felt so stagnant and without purpose. And so when I started asking more why questions, that's when the pursuit of knowledge ended up occurring, because it was this thing of, all right, well, if you ask enough whys, then all of a sudden you start finding these brutal truths, because you start asking whys not just of the things that are around you, but also the things that are deeper inside yourself. And so the pursuit of knowledge was, yes, originally trying to understand this world that I was living in, and the reason why I wasn't really satisfied with it, but then it ended up turning inwards and going, well, why am I asking why? It starts turning into a meta question. And then all of a sudden you start to go down this real spiral of really discovering how you function as a person. You really start to find out what your core beliefs are and the reason why you are believing these core beliefs. So the pursuit of knowledge started off quite simply with the question of why? Why this? And then it became a deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper thing that then led me to be able to, as we were talking about before, live more in alignment with myself, because I knew the reason why I was doing these things. And I think in knowledge there is power. And through finding that power, then that gives you power over your own world. So the world that you're living in, all of a sudden, you know the reasons why you're doing all the things that you're doing. And it means as well, then you can also steer yourself, because you have the power of why and the knowledge of all the reasons you do things and how you actually operate as a person, to then all of a sudden go, well, if I'm not fine with this, if I'm not fine with the way that I'm acting and reacting, then I also still have the power to then go, okay, let's change that.
How has this question helped drive you forward in say the world of producing music? How has the question allowed you to, I guess, get better at club DJing, for example?
Pushing boundaries, pushing limits, and I guess just having fun with it. When it comes to DJing, people like to build profiles and build presences and build images. And I would say that I do have a profile and a presence and an image when it comes to my DJing, which is fun, adventurous, likes to drink, likes to party, likes to have a really good time.
It looks fun, man.
Oh, it does,
fun.
yeah. Well, it is a lot of fun. But asking a lot of the why questions has led me to really push myself when it came to DJing. So start trying to mix things that shouldn't mix. And start to just go, well, why can't we do this? Why can't we be more outrageous? Why can't we then also, after being so ridiculously outrageous, dial it right back in and then become emotional with it? And then by having those pushing for boundaries, it creates the adventure of it, which is why you go out. I mean, at the end of the day, you go out for a night out. If you end up in a nightclub, the worst thing about going to a nightclub is when the nightclub isn't an adventure, it's just, let's go drink, have more drinks, more drinks. Now I'm fucked.
You're trying to add to the adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're listening to me DJ, I want you to have an experience with it. Even in whether it's conscious or unconscious, I want you to come along and go, I remember this point of the night because this happened and this was the soundtrack behind it. I remember this point of the night because this is what was happening and this was the soundtrack behind it. And I remember this point of the night because this is the point of the night where Alec went and did something completely stupid.
Yeah, I want to hover on this topic for a little bit longer as well. It's like, there are a lot, quite a few people that do do trial themselves as a DJ and do pop up on the local scene and give it a go. But obviously, like many things, people come in and they fall off. But a small section of those people, they stay and they progress. And you're clearly one of them here in the local scene. And it's what is it? What is the difference? Do you think? What is the difference? It's like you're mixing because you're essentially a remix DJ. Right.
Yeah. So what they call an open format DJ.
Format.
Open format means you'll basically play anything. So you'll go and venture down whatever path as long as it suits the club, the environment, and what the crowd is desiring.
And what is it? What do you think are the staples or the things or the factors that make a good club DJ that make you being able to rise above the crowd in this industry?
Weirdly enough, without consciously thinking about it, probably a little bit of psychology. So understanding how people operate and how people work and being able to read a crowd is a big key thing. So if you can be the sort of DJ that can go out and go, okay, I'm going to play this. If this doesn't work, how can I figure out by people's reactions, their movements, and weirdly enough, profiling. So if you look at the crowd and you see people dressed in a certain way or acting in a certain way, you can go, all right, so what I'm playing isn't working, but if I can profile you, I'll try that, and 9 times out of 10 it will work. Sometimes somebody's dressed up as a cowboy and all they want to listen to is Mariah Carey. And you'll very quickly find that out once you start playing Brooks and Dunn and they go...
Okay, so you're like really directly tailoring to the crowd.
Yeah. So the other element of it as well is just resilience at the end of the day. So for me...
Hang in there, man.
Yeah, the cat on the poster. For me, it took me years and years and years to get to the point where I was at the top of the local game because there were so many people that were ahead of me. There were so many people that, and I won't lie, there were so many better DJs than me that have been through, that have existed in the scene, but have since faded because they've had their time in the sun or they've had this little bit of a peak, but they just couldn't figure out how to make it last for longer. Whereas me, I had to fight tooth and nail. I had to work from smaller venues to bigger venues, had to be the shit kicker, had to be the resident, had to play all the bad sets, but literally by resilience and when opportunities came up, and because I've done all that hard work and I'd done all that hard work, when those opportunities came up, you were ready. You could grab a hold of them and do them. And then through resilience and just literally sticking around, gradually over time, I became a head resident of a nightclub. I started networking with more people, signed my first record contract, literally just through resilience and being in the places that I needed to be in. And I think that really just in general in life is one of the key things for people is resilience and just being in the place. Because if you want something, if you don't be in the place and if you don't stay in the place, well, it's not going to happen. It's like, the best way to describe it is, well, say for example, uni. By being in the place and staying in the place, which is by studying, being there for longer periods of time, spending more times in the books, you end up getting the reward, which is the degree at the end. And it's the same with anything in life. You go to the gym, if you be in the place.
Yeah, there's lots of people that drop out as well. There's a lot of people that aren't resilient. There's a lot of people that feel like, this is pointless, this is too hard, and they choose to drop out. When it could simply have been that decision to hang in there and just work a little bit harder that would have been the difference. They weren't too dumb. It wasn't impossible to do. It was just like that. Yeah. That feeling, that resilience that you speak of, which we all battle with at times. We all battle with the opposite question: is it really worth doing this? But sometimes it's just like the success in that avenue is literally just on the decision to stay in there. Unless you really suck, which is a hard thing to. You have to have like that default level of talent. Sometimes please you question if you're there or not. It's like, am I even at that default? Am I even at that position where it's worth staying around? Yeah.
I think as well, if you just remain humble, and this is probably the most unhumble thing to say is to remain humble. But always. Yeah. But I think it's a matter of just always thinking that, and it's probably it's such a bad mindset, but an excellent mindset to have, which is always think that you are worse than what you are. If you always think that you're worse than what you are, if you're always questioning what you're doing, it always makes you challenge yourself, pushes you further, makes you want to do better because you think, this is not good enough, this is not good enough. It's great for a period of time. Inherently long periods of time saying that this is not good enough will lead you down the path of depression, et cetera, et cetera. But I think is also the way to always make sure that you strive forward.
The haunting self-critique that lies behind every successful person, I feel. You look at a successful person. I've heard it say, depends what your gauge of success is, but so be careful when it comes to envying those people, because you don't know what it took. You don't know what it sacrificed. You don't know the haunting voices behind this person's success. But you want to that heavy self-critique has got to be a large player, because I feel like it's been getting anything achieved in my life, it has been a massive player.
Well, that's what I'm curious about actually when it comes to you. So like I was saying to you, we were having a bit of a chat before all this started, and I was saying how impressed I was about all your filmography work. So all the work that you're doing, all the travel that you're doing, and how you started with just a passion and all of a sudden you've started doing these fantastic things with it. How did you feel when it came to that sense of doubt, that sense of haunt, that secret voice in behind that drove you forward to make those additional steps?
You're talking about this voice next door that's still with me right now.
Yeah.
It's it's still very much there. It's like I've been dealing with the dilemma my whole life of what has felt like conceding to consensus for lack of a better term, but like falling into the responsibility of life and the responsibility of employment, and and looking at almost looking at myself as a victim. I never would have told myself that for most of my life, but almost like a victim of the process, being forced into a life and a culture and a society that I didn't want to be in, that I felt like I was being told to be a part of. But I've only really felt like I've been living an aligned life and aligned employment for probably only the last year and a half. But it was like it was literally, a few years before that. It was the process of recognizing that no, I'm not a victim. That no, this isn't. I'm not being forced in a society. But no, I have the opportunity to be a part of this, not perfect but amazing system. This amazing society, that has the flexibility for me to go wherever I want, as long as I'm able to exercise that responsibility mindset, the shifting from that victim mindset to responsibility mindset. I saw someone quote this, summed this up very well the other day. It was like, not I have to, but I get to. Not I have to do this, but I get to do this. It was through the responsibility mindset that I was able to, really get in and commit with gratitude to a normal job, to a building job, and like get in and do it properly, and go through and get my Cert 4 in carpentry and build my own house, and like through all these processes. It wasn't exactly planned or conscious, but like through responsibility, I was able to build myself the foundation that allowed me to start making more choices, and the more of a responsibility mindset that I embodied, the wider my array of opportunities become, to the point where I could start refining deeply into that more of that ikigai realm that was more mine. And I look back retrospectively, I was like, oh wow, I like creating videos. I've always liked creating videos. I've always had a GoPro in my pocket, and then oh wow, there are people out here making money doing this. Why don't I just commit myself to this with that same responsibility mindset? Yeah. And then all of the travel and all of these cool little things that have been happening, they're only vaguely planned. But there's a kind of an intention out there that I want these kind of things to happen. But it's just like go out and edit as hard as I can and film as hard as I can and put myself at every opportunity and speak to every other cinematographer that I can see that's better than me. Most of them turn me down. Most of them tell me to fuck off, unfortunately, in this gatekeeping society. But some of them don't.
That's the funny thing, though, and that was look, couple of points there about the fact that things aren't planned, but you have desire. You're moving in the direction, and it's about.
And I'm working hard as well. Yeah,
it's more so about resonance rather than having these structured things that are going to go A, B, C, D, E. And I think that's one of the biggest struggles that we have, and I'm going to come back to that point. God, I was just going to say something else as well. Completely moved past it. But actually, no, I'll go back to this point here, which was, because like I said to you before, I had a quick view over your previous podcasts and about the title, Fuck the System. And I think you actually summarized a thought that I had really well within what you're saying. So the whole idea of fucking the system that I think a lot of people get wrong when it comes to it is that to fuck the system, they feel like they have to fight against. And the problem is, once you fight against, you're already fighting a losing battle. So as somebody that has done martial arts, you'll probably understand that whole thing of you're not fighting against your opponent. You're actually fighting for something. There is something that you're wanting to win. There's something that you want to achieve out of the actual art of doing what you're doing. Because as soon as you fight against, they've already won. So to fight against the system accepts that the system has already won. And the only true way to fight against or fuck the system is quite literally to move beyond it. So in what you were saying about the fact that you, by getting your building cert, what that did was it created a foundational basis, so a financial basis and a foundational basis where you could then move from that point to start to venture off into your ikigai. So venture off into your passions. Yes, you're going to have to intersect with the system. So you're going to have to pay taxes, pay mortgages, do the things like voting because they're mandatory. But the real way to fuck the system is just to live so inherently true to yourself that the system no longer requires. You're not falling into that whole thing of, you know, I do this because everyone around me says that this is what we should be doing, which is inherently actually what the system is that people want to fight against. They want to fight against the standard structures of society that are presented to us. But instead of recognizing that it's the standard structures of society, they think it's everything else because they're provided with labels. They're provided with labels by media, by looking on social media as well, by friends around them. They go, life is this way because I voted for this person and this person has made policies and made it this way, etc., X, Y, Z. Or life is this way because this organization has told me it's got to be this way. Whereas if they actually look deeper, they go, well, no, life is actually this way because of the structures that I'm allowing myself to buy into. And this is not to say, you know, go off and live in the bush and live in a self-sustained hut because, well, it is the ultimate way to fuck the system because you're no longer part of it. But if you want to live a true and fulfilled life, you've got to look at the way that the structures have been set up around you, the systems, as per se, and go, well, I'm not happy with that system. I'm not happy with this structure that has been presented to me. So the ultimate way to fuck it is go, all right, well, if I'm not happy with that system, I now have choices, and the choices are continue within it or find a new system or a new way to do it, which is going to allow me to have freedom.
And I love it, and it's the right mindset. Let me go back to the title of this podcast. This is something that I might have to do a number of times. I think you probably know this, but at this point in time, I say that to fuck the system. I say it ironically at this point. I say it like, almost sarcastically. It's like, and if we go back to that label before, it's about changing the perception. It's about changing the mind frame at which you're trying to fuck the system. It's not I have to fuck the system. It's not fuck you, the system. Let's say, hey, I get the fuck the system. I get the fuck this beautiful system. And the way that I say it, the way that I interpret it at this point is that like, to fuck the system is to be successful in the system. And it's to You know, it's not in a hateful way at this point. It was once upon a time for me. And to be hateful to hate the system that we live in, the system that we're born into, this complex, infrastructure and value system that we're born into. To say fuck the system in a hateful way is just to say fuck everything around you.
Yeah, basically.
And it's a victim mindset.
Yeah.
But if I recognize this is something that we all fight with at some point. There are elements of the system that we might go fuck you to, but it's not the right mindset. Gratitude is the right mindset, and there's so much more that is good about this world that we live in, this Western world that we live in. The developed world, the West. I love the West. I love the foundations that the West were built on, and it's certainly not. To say fuck the system isn't in a hateful way for me anymore. And that was that change that allowed me to start moving through the system. It's not really as catchy a title, but it's more like let's make love to the system.
I'm all turning, Let's fuck the system, but do it gently.
Yeah, and consensually, else you end up in jail.
Yeah. But you do raise a really interesting point there, which is about victim and victim mentality. And I think this is the big trap that a lot of us find ourselves in, especially when it comes to change as well. So when we're wanting to create change in our lives, or we're not happy with something. So change only occurs out of discomfort, and people that are feeling victimized by a system or by a situation have an extreme level of discomfort towards it. That's the most simplified way to explain it. Also understanding that to be a victim also has different permutations, different meanings per different context. But yeah, what you were saying about, you had the choice of remaining or feeling like you're a victim to the system, a victim to the culture, or choosing to make the change. I think that's one way to use victimhood or identification of being a victim actually as power. So going, okay, well, I don't like this. I feel like I've been pushed down, trodden on. I feel like I've been treated like absolute shit. So yes, I'm a victim. And then you could have stopped there, like many do, like most do. They get to that point and they go, you know what, hands up, I'm just going to be forever a victim of this. It's all out of my power. There's no sense of responsibility. There's a quote actually from Mark Manson on responsibility, and I'm going to butcher this. He talks about it in one of his books, which is you receive a knock on the door. It's a cold, snowy night, and you open the door, and there is a crying newborn baby on the doorstep. Now, was it your fault that the baby was put there? No. But is it your responsibility to deal with it? Yeah. Because if you don't deal with it, you close the door, the baby's going to cry, baby's going to die, police are going to turn up and go, why the hell didn't you take care of the baby? You would likely get charged for negligence of that baby, even if the baby wasn't yours, because it became your responsibility. Responsibility isn't necessarily something that you take on through inherent drive. You can take on responsibility. You can identify a need and go, okay, this is going to be my responsibility now. But most responsibility comes from a place of, I didn't want this. I don't want this. But I can keep saying, I don't want this and I didn't want this and remain a victim. Or you can go, you know what, fuck it. Fuck the system. Fuck what has put me here, and let's do something better. Let's use this sense identity of victimhood and then let's move beyond it. Let's go the next step and do something incredible and awesome.
And it's just a state of mind that we're essentially given in each moment, every day that we wake up. It's like, and you could argue against it. You could argue if the responsibility mindset is right, or if you are a true victim. When we're all victims in one way or another, in one sense, if we want to look at it that way. The problem with the victimhood is that it doesn't get you moving. No, you're still. You're standing still. To complain is to just stay in the same spot. But to get that responsibility mindset is to start moving. Okay, what do I have to do to make things better? it's just, it's just a better mind frame. It's like, it's like something that's been spoken about in different myth and different ways, since the beginning of civilization and writing. It's just like there's all of these different ways to portray it, but it's just like something that we need to constantly remind ourselves of, whether it's in in a scientific way, whether it's in a mythology way, whether it is going back to religion. But it's just basically, are you going to complain, or are you going to get up and move and do something about it? It's like whatever gets us there, And if we can do that in a way that is tailored to our own lives, and and that is suited to us personally in that ikigai style concept, then I feel like it's a pathway to a pretty fun and fulfilling life. It's working for me bit by bit, and I feel like it's been working for you for a few years as well.
Yeah, I think, and just so people get a good understanding of, I have felt like a victim before, and the worst I felt when I felt like a victim was when I was seriously depressed and I was overweight before I became obese. So I was overweight and then worked my way up to obese and then tipped the scales into that lovely little territory of morbid obesity and got told by my doctor...
Is that one of the BMI statistics right
Yeah. And got told by the doctor, he's like, if you don't do something now, you're going to become diabetic. And I was just like, it was a big boy. But what led me there was this whole victimhood. I was feeling depressed and I was looking out at the world and I thought, this is not my fault that I got here. This is everybody else's fault. This is, I've been trying hard. I've been working hard. I've been, trying to tick all the boxes, trying to get everything right in life. And life just hates me. Society just hates me. The world just hates me. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to comfort myself. I'm going to eat more food. I'm going to drink far more alcohol. I'm going to take substances which are going to make me feel better, which the only thing that ended up doing was just reinforce the victimhood, made me fatter, made me unhealthier, made me so much unhappier. But it's that critical point of literally the doctor turning around and going, you're going to be diabetic if you don't do something about this, was the point where I realized, well, I can't be a victim anymore, can I? This has only gotten me here and it's only going to get worse. So now is the choice where I can go, all right, great, victim. Let's actually do something about it, Let's no longer identify as the victim. Let's identify as somebody who recovers.
Yeah. You've mentioned that. It's like a key part of a story, the story is introduced and it's introduced with a problem. And the story then goes through a problem and then it goes through a tension. And then it goes, and it climaxes, the Rocky story. You come in, you start putting the work in to the point where, you reach that goal and you lose, for you personally, almost a third of your body weight. Yeah. It's incredible. But that's the thing. If you
some would say it's all in the head, but
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that weight's still there, isn't it?
Yeah. Just bobbling around.
There's substance in there, but yeah, I mean, like you said, the victimhood and the recognition of like the deep vulnerability that you've put yourself in. That right there is the potential beginning of a story, the potential beginning of a recovery story. As humans, we interpret the world in story. What a shame for it to stop right there. To stop at the start of the story where the dilemma has been identified, where you're about to get diabetes if you don't do something about it, and then the process of walking through the gym and struggling there, and being the fat guy in the gym, kind of nervous with his hoodie on, lifting barbells in the corner, to the point where. Look,
everyone just looks at you weird.
Under 10% body fat. You've got like a six pack. You're looking shredded. You look like an athlete, mate. Yeah.
Thanks, man. I'm wearing oversized jumpers still because they're still part of my wardrobe.
You're not supposed to be smart and fit, mate. Leave some credentials for the rest of us, But
sorry, just before you go, you actually raise a very interesting point there, which is that threshold moment. So as you were saying. People understand life through stories, and it's quite literally that threshold point where most people give up. So have you heard of Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces, so the hero monomyth?
Joseph Campbell's? No, but the hero's journey, of course. Yeah.
So the hero's journey is this circular story. And along in the story where most people give up is the call to action, not just the call to action, but the refusal of the call. So something comes along the journey where you get the call to action. So for me, one of my calls of action was, you're going to be obese. You're going to be diabetic. If you don't make a change here. And where a lot of people in that situation would go, all right, I refuse that. I don't believe that. I don't want to do it. And look, for probably about a month afterwards, I was like, nah, doctor doesn't know what he's talking about. Nothing like that, and then looked
at Cheetos too much.
Yeah. Oh, cheese. Oh my God. Okay. Biggest addiction of my life.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem for me as well, but yeah.
Like, I will say, I have done drugs before, and cheese was the hardest one to get over. 100%, I will say I'm clean now. I haven't done anything in years.
No, okay.
But cheese, oh my God. I had a couple of weeks ago, I had just one of these, I had a day, it was a day from hell, like it was just a real struggle of the day, and I was feeling sad of an evening, and I went into the fridge and I'd bought some cheese, and I just looked at the block of cheese, and it was just like, just looking at a baggie when you didn't want to do it, and you're like, this is...
Oh, that's awesome.
No, I know better, I don't want to do this, and ended up just having a little slither of it, and I was just like, it was orgasmic. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I've relapsed.
I've relapsed. Give me some cheese. But it's that moment where it's the refusal of the call where most people get stuck. They hear something and they go, this has to change. And they might make one or two steps in the right direction. But the problem is that they make one or two steps in the right direction, but it just is too hard. It's needing to cross that threshold becomes this sense of unreality. Like, that's just impossible. That's beyond me. And so that's where they give up. Whereas what they haven't realized is the true journey, the story that they want to tell in their life, that fantastic story, that wonderful journey of experience and fun, they're stopping at stop number 2 out of 14 or 15.
I feel like, unconsciously, the problem is that we recognise and we're particularly reminded of this reality as maybe we do start the first 1 or 2 steps. You start and you have this intention. It's like, okay, I better change something. You start the 1 or 2 steps and you go, oh, okay, I see where this is going. This is going towards change. This is going towards discomfort. This is going towards, I like the idea kind of being that, that person with the 6-pack, and the aligned life there in the future. But goddamn, I gotta give up some comfort along the way. I gotta give up some vice along the way. I gotta lose some friends along the way. It's like, and I think that's that concept of the fear of success. Well, what do you mean the fear of success? Everyone wants to be successful. Maybe, but does everybody want to work towards that? Does everyone want to sacrifice towards that? I think, people. I think everybody's, people are smarter than we give them credit for, and people are able to start and they recognize, oh, okay, I see where this is going. This just means a lot of different things, and I don't want to do a lot of different things. I'm just comfortable here.
That fear of success is just discomfort in another set of clothes. Yeah. That's all it is. Yeah. Is you can see the success and you go, no, that's just too much. But that's just because discomfort comes in and says, no, that is quite literally going to be far too uncomfortable. But that is how change occurs. So change occurs through discomfort getting to a point or getting to a threshold so high that you have to do something to change. It's like if you lie in your bed in the morning, you lie in your bed and you're nice and toasty and warm and you've got nothing that really gets you out of bed in the morning. You're not going to get out of bed straight away. You're going to go, you know what, this is too comfortable. Yeah, I should probably get up. I should probably get up and do this, or, I should probably get up, otherwise I'll be late for work. But, you're in good standing at work, so you're allowed to be a little bit late. So the discomfort isn't there. But if your bed was a bed of nails, if your bed was so uncomfortable, you'd be getting out of that thing as quick as you possibly could because the discomfort threshold is so much higher.
Exactly. I think I'm going to try and elaborate on this point here, which I think you're going to be very helpful in this realm. As someone who has studied the mind intensely, you've got your initial degree, and I believe you are. So firstly, you have graduated in a Bachelor of Psychology Science. I think I saw that you are continuing study now as well. So what is the continuation of study first? What are you doing?
Yes, so the way psychology works, especially here in Australia, is so you get your Bachelor, but your Bachelor...
How many years is that?
So your Bachelor is 3 years, the fastest you can do it. So your Bachelor gives you basically your basis level of understanding when it comes to psychology. So outside of that, I was also doing my own work, so my own studies, my own reading, that sort of thing, because I have a strong passion for it. But once you've done that, then you'll have all your postgrad studies. And then what your postgrad studies do means you can actually then become to the title of psychologist, because psychologist is a protected title. So you have to get a master's level, if not higher, certification to be able to become that. So that's where I'm at the moment, is I'm going through all my postgrad studies so I can eventually become a clinical psychologist.
And that is the goal.
Yes.
Yeah, so cool, man. But I want to speak about this is more of a neurological realm, but of course this is the process that you are familiar with. It's, it's paired along with what they say. Psychology is the study of mind. Neuroscience is the study of the brain. It's like. But the process that is becoming a very mainstream topic right now is the subject of dopamine.
Yes.
And one of our main neurochemicals that helps with so many different things. I'm learning. It helps us with attention. It helps us with motivation. It's one of the most prolific neuromodulators that we have. But dopamine, it's incredible because it can be contextualized. Yep. It's like the process of we're talking about comfort and we're talking about discomfort. You would use the analogy of the discomfort bed of nails. It's like your bed is like a bed of nails. It's like, how possibly can your bed be uncomfortable? Your bed is always so comfortable. Yeah. Sleep is amazing. How can it be uncomfortable? But if you're able to recontextualize your life in a process that, okay, my goals are to do as much work as I can towards my new career or towards this fitness goal that I need to make the most of my days. So you get up in the morning and you feel that inclination to lie in bed, but you have told yourself that lying in bed is deadly against your goals. It's deadly against the process of what you're trying to achieve. If you can contextualize that well enough, then your bed essentially does become a bed of nails. The laying in bed, it becomes uncomfortable. I think this is relevant to you as well. You've been a club DJ, and you were, I believe, you were a club DJ even through that process of becoming morbidly obese. You were working the whole way through, and you were probably partying a little bit harder at the clubs. It's like, and I'm sure it's still a challenge. I mean, I've seen the DJs at clubs. I've had some experience in the nightclubs as well as a security guard for many years as well. It's like, so I have a bit of a deep insight into that strange and complex realm of the nightclubs as well. But I'm sure that the DJs, they're the man of the club. They're the person up on the stage on the elevated platform. All of the girls are reaching out to them. They're the coolest guy in the club. They're making that happiness of the club. There's something about that. And I'm sure that there are a lot of opportunities or pools to. I'm trying to think of a different way to say it. There are a lot of, negative opportunities that are being handed to you towards this club, and once upon a time, it sounds like you took a lot of these opportunities, a lot of these handouts. But it seems like now, and looking at these pictures of you in the gym, that you're not taking these handouts anymore. What was the recontextualization of your life that allowed you to shift from taking the baggie to not taking the baggie?
Not eating the cheese.
Not eating the cheese. Yeah.
So to think back to that metaphor of the bed of nails, it was what I didn't want. So to start off any form of change, you've got to have something that you don't want, something that you desperately are so uncomfortable with that means not making a change becomes an impossibility. So for me, I was looking at how my life was functioning, how I was functioning as a human being. And I looked at that point and I said, I don't ever want to be here again. I don't like this. I hate this. This is the point that I have to move past, because if I stay here, quite frankly, I don't know how long I'm going to be around for. Partying was getting way too heavy. Life was getting way too heavy. There was a really personal point in my life, which was probably the biggest point of change for me, which actually cemented everything that is going on for me, especially now, and especially my identity. And it happened about 3 years ago. So I'd moved from obese to overweight. I'd moved to Hobart. That fell through. The people I was living with, various different circumstances. So I ended up moving back home. And I remember Christmas and being around my parents for Christmas and being around my sister, her husband, my nephew. And it was such a loving environment. And I was there, the odd one out. I was alone. I didn't have a partner. I didn't have the success that everybody else was having. My sister and her husband had these fantastic levels of success with their careers, so much so that my sister could take time off work, and they were well supported. My parents had lived fantastic careers and well supported. But for me, I was studying a degree. I was struggling money-wise. I was trying to balance the money I was earning from DJing and partying way too hard, and also Centrelink. I was trying to survive off very little. And then moving back home was just sort of the final nail in the coffin. And I reached this point where, so Christmas had ended, come home, and I just emotionally collapsed. And it was just this point where I was just like, that's it. That's enough. That for me, this is the point. And I remember parking down by the ocean, near the old abattoir down at Kui. And I remember it was a starry night, bit of clouds, full moon in the sky. I remember sitting on the bonnet of my car, crying, yelling out at the sky, going, the fuck do you want from me? Like, what more can I fucking do? And I remember in that particular moment was the time that I really said to myself, all right, this is the point of ultimate discomfort. I'm back up to 88 kilos. And to contextualize that, I'm a short fella, so that's big for a short fella. But I had a gut that was hanging out. I was so unhappy. I was relying on alcohol to make myself feel any form of joy. And so in a moment that I should have felt ultimate joy around my family, I felt alone. I felt tired. I felt like I was missing out on life. I didn't have love. I didn't have a body that I wanted. I didn't have a career that I wanted. So I made myself a little pact. And it was a Faustian bargain. So a Faustian bargain is, if you don't know, basically a pact with the devil. And in that moment I said, 12 months. In 12 months, if I don't lose the weight, if I don't find love, and if I don't feel happier, that's it. That's it. That's where I'll call it quits. That's where the phone hangs up. That's where Alex says, au revoir, à bientôt. She's all over Red Rover. And that was the ultimate moment of discomfort. Now, I'm not saying that anyone should really ever have to reach that point, but as a great descriptor of discomfort, that is the ultimate moment. That is where life got to the point where it was like, this is basically, my face is grinding against sandpaper. This is the point where I am so uncomfortable, I'm willing to just go, nada, that's it. But because of that ultimate level of discomfort, what that then allowed me to do was just go, you know what? If this is it for 12 months, let's have a hell of a time of it. So I was losing more weight. I was working out more. I got in a relationship. Granted, it was terrible, but I found love for a period of time, or what I thought was. But then all of a sudden I became happier because I started going out and living life. I started going hiking. I started experiencing things. I went out for dinner by myself. I went to a couple of really nice restaurants and had a table for two booked. I was thinking, maybe I might find a date. This would be a bit of fun. Didn't. But I still sat at the table and enjoyed this really lovely dinner that I would never have had. And these were the things that spawned from just ultimate discomfort. Because once ultimate discomfort comes, then all of a sudden change can occur because you don't want that. You so much don't want that you have to do the complete opposite. So that's what I did. I did the complete opposite. And then after that point comes habit. So you get used to doing the actions that you're doing. It's like when you go to the gym for the first few times, the DOMs are terrible. You feel so uncomfortable in that experience, but eventually it becomes habit. The muscles get used to what you're doing, the pattern of what you're doing. And it's the same with studying. It's really hard to start with, but then gradually over time you get used to the pattern, you start doing it. And then it no longer is about the discomfort, the thing that you hate, the thing that you want to work against. It becomes habitual. It becomes identity. It becomes who you are.
Yeah, that's amazing. That'll be another concept that sticks with me, I think, is the Faustian bargain. I really like that. It's like, wow, you know what? I think the devil gets too much hate. It's like, I think he's got a place here. He's got a room at the table occasionally. It's
Sometimes
like,
does,
yeah, that deal with the devil. Really, it's I feel like that deal. It doesn't have to be rock bottom every time. It can be made in little senses. But when you just feel yourself dropping, kind of thing, you feel your level dropping. That mode of habit. That you should have integrated throughout the process. So how well do you integrate that? Because you have to integrate it without the devil's help at some point. If you're moving in the right direction, it comes to the point where you're not feeling that pressure from the possibility of failure as you keep getting better. It's like, how do I keep this going without that feeling? It could actually be a problem with my life a little bit. It's like I've made that pact and that bargain, that Faustian bargain, so many times in my life. Actually, it's actually incredible how well the motivation of perceived failure can just get things going. It's like, wow, there's been the point where I'm watching my bank account drop to the point where I'm broke, and it's like, let's get money. And then I make that deal with the devil, that Faustian bargain that you spoke of. Just make money so quick. It's like wow. It's like I find that making money is one of the easiest things when you set your mind to it. It's like, and then when I'm back in the blue and I'm feeling good again, it's like I ask myself the questions like, why the fuck can't I always just habitually bit by bit make this money? I'd be so rich by now. It's like, I make money best when I'm partnered with the devil, unfortunately, but bit by bit, these habits they integrate. Maybe it's a slow process for me, but here's another. I need to point out as well. You're in a bad place, perceptually, but you must be grateful for your parents and your family. There must be a deep gratitude there because they were the ones that you were in the room with that day that caused you to make that. To drive down to the abattoir there at Kui and make it and yell at the universe or whatever you did. It's like if you're in a different room right there, in a room of people that weren't as successful and that weren't doing as well and weren't as happy, it wouldn't have driven you down there to the foreshore that day. It's like, how important is it, the people that you surround yourself by? How important can comparison be, especially if it isn't looked at resentfully, but as looking at it as like a positive comparison of like, hey,
Yeah.
how important is that? You are the average of your 5 closest friends, or the average of your family members, whatever it may be. You know, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and look, relational influence is huge. The people you hang around with is massive. Like you said, you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with most. I think in that particular circumstance there for me, it made the stark reality of my discomfort so much more stark because of the contrast in life and position that we're in. Had I been in a room where everybody else was struggling, I would have looked around and went, well, everyone else is in the same position, there's no need to change. And so if you don't have that ability to have things around you to make you aware that you need to make change, then of course you're not. And it raises the whole thing of perceptual blindness, which is, best way to think about it is, have you ever come across a person that's really smelly and you wonder why they don't realise they're really smelly? It's because they become perceptually blind. They become so numb to their own smell, so their olfactory receptors completely numb it out. It's like, and this is going to sound a bit weird, but if you fart in the car and you don't open the windows, you're going to stop smelling the fart eventually. It's because you become perceptually blind. Well, if you've got no contrast that shows you that change is possible, change could actually benefit you in your life, then you're not going to know to make the change. You're not going to know that something is possible for you because there is no contrast. There's nothing to say, yeah, if you do this, this can happen, or the position that you're in is not necessarily the greatest for you. So unless you're being given that perceptual contrast, then yeah, you're never going to know. So yes, the value of family and those relations in that situation gave me that ability to have perceptual contrast. But I'm sure for you as well, like through the experiences that you have with all the different work that you do, you see what you've done to a certain point, and then you come across somebody else who's on the same journey but a couple of steps ahead. And then you meet more people like that and you go, hang on a second, this is the perceptual contrast that makes me go, all right, we need to go next gear. We need to step it up a level. We need to, shift up and just go wild with this.
Yeah, and speaking about dopamine, and that process that keeps us still, can be also the process that brings us forward, at least neurological. That feeling of dopamine. How do we seek out dopamine? What is the strategy that we have to be getting that dopamine? Are we looking for more of spikes in that dopaminergic response? We're looking for Cheetos and baggies and gambling and whatever
Sure.
it may be. It's like,
go ahead, gamble.
Or are we trying to up our baseline and trying to find ways of of that hard work mixed with that motivation of that perpetual kind of incremental fuel that keeps you going. The process when you get on that on that journey towards that goal, and you've written it down, you know exactly where you're going. It's like every that hard work, you're able to drive through it because you're able, every time you ask that why am I working so hard, you have that vision of that goal in your future. It's so interesting, like you were saying, and that it inevitably brings you different places, and inevitably brings you towards people that are at further stages than you are, and that it continues that process of motivation. It's like, wow. Suddenly you start reading it a little bit and you start becoming a better conversationalist, and then you light a conversation up with a more academic kind of fellow, and next time you're talking with him, and then you make a friendship with him, you realize that he reads more than you and he has better quotes than you, and it just motivates you to read more, and and then you become more well read, and you can have even better conversations. It's like that process. But the bittersweet part of that process is if you are seeking these new friendships and what you think are more developed, kind of more, again, for lack of a better word, higher frequency friendships, then perhaps you're not relating to some past social groups as well anymore. I've come from some pretty bad low frequency. I don't know. I really need to stop using that word. I don't like that.
People that no longer align with where you are now.
Yeah.
So they may have once aligned where you were at that point in time because they were resonant. So frequency and resonance, they work hand in hand. So the stage that you were at that point in time, you were resonant with them because you were moving within certain circles.
I speak particularly about my teenage years. It's like being part of like a rebellious social circle in my teens. And being part of that. A nasty kind of toxic masculine kind of culture. And like you. It's just what it's what you're a part of kind of thing. But like as soon as you get a little, you start listening to a podcast and you start like seeing that there are different ways to live life and you start growing, obviously you're not going to relate to those people anymore. And so you have to, and the friendships have to kind of evaporate over time, which is the bittersweet part of growth is that, what I hear, there's like this mid ground. If you're ever going to go on a growing experience, there's this mid ground, often this lonely mid ground where you are becoming too different from the social circle that you came from, but you're not quite good enough for the people that you're aiming towards, kind of thing. There's like that mid ground of growth. That lonely mid ground of growth. If you're a filmmaker, you're trying to be part of filmmaking crews. None of your friends understand filmmaking. They don't give a fuck about filmmaking. But here you are working every single day trying to become a better filmmaker. But the guys that you want to be hanging out with, you're not a good enough filmmaker for them yet. So here you are in your room, struggling away, trying to get better. But so that hard, lonely process.
In psychology, it's called liminality. So liminality is the stage of a great metaphor is so you've been in a room, so you've been in one room and you've existed, and then you've decided to take a step out of that room. And to take a step out of that room, as you walk further out of that room, you start to close that door behind you. So that's you no longer aligning with the people behind you. But you've walked out into a corridor and you're in this lonely corridor where there's another door in front of you that you want to go into, but it's not yet unlocked. So you're sort of just standing or sitting in this corridor going, well, what now? People from the old room, they keep opening the door going, come on, come back in, come back in, let's have some fun. Some other door down the corridor goes, oh, you come over here, we're going to do crypto. And you're like, oh, I could do. And you start to wander down there and you're like, but what if I miss out on the door that I really want? So then you have to sort of turn down that door and go, no, filmmaking, this is the door that I want to go in. But they keep looking through the people and go, not just yet. The space isn't available in here, or he's just not quite ready. And so you end up sitting in this lonely corridor with no one around you, wondering when.
Sitting in that corridor just researching crypto. Whilst you have the guys behind you trying to throw cheese in your face.
That's exactly it. Yeah, the cheese door always gets me. But you end up just sitting in this corridor and it's an indefinite time. You never know how long you're going to sit there. It's like going to the doctors nowadays. It's like you book in for an appointment time, you turn up for the appointment time.
It's a type of purgatory.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a type of purgatory. You're sitting there, you're waiting, but eventually that door will open because you've done the work. Like I was talking about before, you've been in the place. You've been doing the work in the place, and then gradually over time,
it's a real faith-based approach though. Hey, it's like that's where you implement that trust in yourself that you are moving towards that door and that it is going to open eventually. And sometimes when it's just you there in that room, you start questioning whether that door ever is going to open. Are you good enough? Are you moving with enough, momentum? Is it going to happen, or is that cheese door just going to drag me back in?
And then that sort of goes on to that whole thing of discipline and motivation and drive. I was having a chat with someone the other day when it came about motivation, because they had started going to the gym but fell out. They went for a month. Easy to do for the first month, but after a month, everything else got in the way. Life got in the way. And so they gave up and they went, how do I get back into it again? And I said, your biggest problem is not actually motivation. It's not your drive. Your biggest problem is actually inspiration. So what a lot of people mistake motivation as is actually just inspiration. That's why at the start of any journey or any commitment that you do, it's exciting. You know, those first couple of gigs doing filming, they're so exciting. This is new, this is fresh, and all of a sudden, you know, you can't wait to get into the editing room and fix all up, you know, fix this, and I made a mistake, I can't wait to the next shoot so I can do this. But then gradually over time, that inspiration starts to fade because you're doing the process, you're doing X, Y, Z. You have to do the moves, you have to do the workouts, you have to commit the time, you have to commit the study, and it becomes boring because it is the same old thing day after day. And then that's where motivation and drive needs to kick in. That's where you go, okay, this is really where motivation comes in, because I know that if I do the work, if I do the steps, it's going to get me somewhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, you end up, say for example, going to the gym, and if you do the steps, you're going to end up as Mr. Olympia. No, it's a matter of going, all right, I'm going to get somewhere that's better than this. And that's the whole liminal space, and the awkwardness, the boredomness, the loneliness of that space is recognizing the fact that, yes, I'm in this space, I'm not through the door that I want to go into, but I also sort of don't know what's on the other side of that door. I've seen people behind there, I've seen and I've heard noises, I've heard things, but I'm not really sure what's there. You know, I can set all my hopes and dreams and expectations of it going to be something, but we can never predict the future in life. It's like everybody has that moment where they buy a lotto ticket and they go, I'm definitely going to win this. I have a vibe. I can really feel it this time. I spend $8 on a lotto ticket and I can really feel the fact that I'm going to get my 4 million, my 10 million, my 20 million. It never does happen. Well, for a very select few it does. But when it comes to personal work, so personal growth, being in that liminal space, you do know that something is going to happen on the other side of it. There is going to be some form of reward. It mightn't necessarily be what you want, but you know you're going to get there through pure drive and motivation, through putting up with the boredom. So once inspiration dies, it requires on the belief and the want for something better than the place that you're in, and then that's what keeps motivation and drive.
And I love it, that motivation and the discipline. The difference between that the spontaneous inspiration that just kind of gets you going versus the actual goal written on the board with maybe some substance towards it, kind of thing. You know, it's like difference is, I think, one of the factors that to, I guess, reflect on here is that I feel like the straightforward, motivated, disciplined approach works better for some brains than others. And I feel like some people can just hit that goal and that process and deal with that boredom so much better than other people can. However, I think there is a trick in a way that the way that the type of brain that doesn't do well with boredom, the type of brain that doesn't do well with a random goal and routine can kind of fix this process. And this way is by actually picking a goal and picking a door, as we were speaking back to the metaphor before, that you're actually interested in.
Yes.
And picking a corridor that you can actually commit yourself to.
Yes.
And actually picking, it's like, I don't know when these, you know what? I have some secret doors opening for me in the background, but I'm not quite ready to speak about them yet. You know, it's like, because I'm more determined to get into the doors than I am to tell people about the doors. It's a whole other conversation, but I'm happy to hang out in the trenches here, in the filmmaking trenches, in the filmmaking corridor. If you're like actually committed to something that generally, a brain like mine, there's something that generally does interest me, then okay, I might not be in the place that I want to be, but I can commit myself here in the meantime. And that process of commitment is, inevitably going to put me towards that door. It's like you start that degree and you're going to reach those points of doubt and those tensions that want to pull you back. You better have started a degree that actually aligns with you. You better have started a degree and you better have an end goal that is actually stronger. Yeah. You either have to have an end goal that is strong enough to pull you through, or you better at least somewhat enjoy the process. You better at least somewhat enjoy that information that you learn, and you better be able to make some kind of utility. Either that goal at the end is so fucking strong that it drives you through the boredom, or you enjoy the process a little bit, you know? Yeah. Something to drive you through. Speak to me, yeah.
It goes back to that whole thing of Ikigai and what we were talking about right at the very start, which is why. Why? What is your why? What is the reason behind doing this? Because it's very nice to go, you know, I want a degree, or I want to get a body, or I want to achieve X amount of money, or I want to do this. It's like, why? Like, if you are going to commit the time, if you want to have the discipline, the motivation, the drive maintained over a long enough period of time, you've got to have a strong enough why. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I want to become a filmmaker, you know? That is good enough, but there is something else underneath that. It's like you want to create art, you want to create something that is magical, you want to create experiences, you want to capture something that nobody has captured before, you want to do it in a way that hasn't been done before, you want to communicate, you want to connect with people. You layer all these whys into it, and the more whys that you have towards working towards a goal, the more it's going to stick, the more the motivation is going to be there. Because some days you're going to doubt and be like, no, I can't do this. I really can't do this. I can't achieve this why. But the more whys that you have, the more reasons to do it. The others come in and pick that up and go, well, great, you can't do that one, but I want to still do this. I still want to be creative, you know? Okay, great. That's going to be enough to get me out of the bed in the morning. That's going to be enough to get me to take that extra step that I didn't feel like I wanted to take today. The more whys you have, the more reasons to do something, and the more heavily weighted they are, the more likely you're going to stick at it and go for the long term, put up with that liminal space and get through that door.
I agree wholeheartedly, but here's a dilemma that many of us have dealt with. It's like, what do you say to those people that they have a feeling that, you know, they're speaking to the Faustian, you know, the Faustian devil there. They want to make that pact, but they don't exactly know how to make it. I mean, they can't exactly find that larger why. They're there and they know they want something. They know that there's something more, but they're looking and they just can't see it. They can't see exactly what their why is. How do they even get started? What is the process right there for that person to even get moving? If they're so far away from finding that larger why, you know, finding that doctorate, that psychology degree, that psychology label, finding that full-time filmmaker label, you know, it's like they're so far away from finding that. They're just taking stabs in the dark. Yeah. What do you say to that person? How does a person get moving if they don't have a larger why?
Yeah. Make a step. Doesn't matter how big. Doesn't matter how small. Just literally make a step. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be the total step of starting something. So there's a thing in psychology called the stages of change model. So you're at a point of, you start with a point of no change, and then you get to a point of pre-contemplation. So you're thinking about doing something, and that's where these people are at in this example. They're thinking about doing something, but they're not ready to take any action. They're not ready to do anything really at all. And then you get to the contemplation stage. And the contemplation stage is, okay, I'm not ready to take action yet, but let's start looking at ways that action can occur. Let's start looking at the things that we can do. And it's in that stage where just simply taking the first step and going, all right, well, if I want to get a degree, how do I get a degree? Okay, what universities offer degrees? Let's just know about that. Let's just learn about that. Okay, I want to get into the gym, but I don't want to be made an absolute fool of. What can I do to know about things? So you watch a YouTube video on someone working out, or someone talking about diet or exercise, or you talk to a mate that's done this sort of thing. You want to get into DJing, which I get lots of young DJs go, how do I start? I go, just start looking at music, start listening to stuff, download a free DJing program and just start playing around with it. You know, these are the initial small steps that require very little to no investment, but simply starting, making a small step starts momentum. And momentum is the biggest thing to making long-term change happen. So one small step, one small trudge, one small movement in the direction that you want to go leads to the second step, and then the third step. And all of a sudden you're shuffling your feet and you're starting to move forward in that direction, and then gradually it turns into a walk. And you go, all right, well, I'm walking now, you know, we're starting to get there, and then...
You've cleaned up a bunch of rubbish as well, and you like, suddenly can see a little bit clearer. And that's what I think there is that point as well. There's like, some people are so far in that I don't know what to do, that like, they're almost like not even negative. They're in the negative essentially. They're not even ready to make a step yet. And I found that like, when you can't even find one thing that you want to do, there's a step before that. Everybody can see things that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
Everyone can see things that they don't like. You might not have a clue in the world where you want to go in life, but there's a pretty good chance that you can look around and see some places that you don't want to go in life.
Yeah.
And before you even start that first step into the positive direction, you can clean up some rubbish. You can. Do I want a messy room? No, I don't. I don't want a messy room. Do I want to be like my alcoholic father? You know, I don't want to be like my alcoholic father. You know, it's like, and you just make I better stop drinking then. And then, you know, through this process, like sometimes before even making those steps forward towards a better place, you know, you got to clean up the space around you, which allows you to see a little bit better. You know, if somebody's like really, really in the dumps. The first thing is make the environment around you a little bit less like a dump, and then from there, you might something might pop out at you. Oh, shit! There's something that I actually want to do. Wow. Okay, that's the gym. Okay, I never thought of that. Too much rubbish around my room to even think that maybe the gym could be a possibility. And then you start the gym. You know, it's the crazy part of like what the momentum of just like taking the responsibility of cleaning up your room can be. You know, it's like starting that process.
Do you mind if we just take a pause there so I can use the loo? Sorry.
I was going to say as well, man, I was ready to take my first podcast official bathroom break as well.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, congratulations.
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Awesome, man. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Nice little break. Actually, it sort of segues, funnily enough, what we were just talking about and what we just had a very brief conversation there in our break, talking about responsibility. So, absolutely love the fact that because people wouldn't have heard what we were talking about analysing our own lives, and talking about by writing down and looking at how you've progressed in your life and the things that have occurred. So doing that autobiographical writing that you were talking about, and how the escape from responsibility, and how responsibility is so important. So we briefly touched on it earlier when we were talking about, you know, baby on the doorstep and taking responsibility for action. But the acceptance of responsibility is so key, because until you're ready to take responsibility for action, and this even goes back to that metaphor of the messy room, until you're ready to take responsibility to actually make something occur, nothing is going to happen. And the best way to make change and get the things that you want out of life is quite literally radical responsibility. Just going, you know what? Without me doing something about this, without me taking responsibility for this, nothing is going to change. And at the end of the day, it's all down to you, baby. Because until you are ready to take that step, then nothing happens.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's like, how do you go from, oh, life is so hard, look at all of these pains that are put on me, look at all of this suffering that I have, to, oh, you know what, hell, I'm just going to get a responsibility. It's like, it's an interesting little jump from victim mindset to responsibility. It's like, I think, and I told you, it reminded me because I was saying that when I was living in Melbourne, I'd finish a jiu-jitsu session when I was in a really, really hard point. In the hardest point of my life, I was at that rock bottom moment in my life. But I had jiu-jitsu to keep me going, but I started this process. I would finish a midday jiu-jitsu session. I'd go to the little corner store and get myself a Pepsi Max. And then I'd go to the library and I'd start writing this psychoanalysis autobiographical process that I went through. Which, like we said at the end, it kind of came to it got summarized very, very easily in the end. Oh, all of my problems in my life had come from running away from responsibility.
Yeah.
So therefore, I had to reverse engineer it and do the opposite. I had to run towards responsibility. I had to pick up responsibility. But before that, it's like I had to, I guess, have that incentive to do that. And it's like, what is the incentive for? The incentive was for that, I have the opportunity to that. I have so many things to be grateful for. I'm alive. I have the ability to change things, and that feeling of gratitude. Again, it's another thing that is quite opposite to the victim mindset. It's like being grateful for the opportunities that you have around you, being grateful for what you can do, being grateful just for being alive. And when you're grateful, then, is there any other thing that you can do than take responsibility? They're bedfellows, gratitude and responsibility. Just again, the mind switch, be grateful. Just there are so many things around us at so many different times. We are all both blessed and suffering at the same time. But which things are you going to concentrate on? Are you going to concentrate on the things that you're suffering with, or are you going to concentrate on the things that you're blessed with? Again, we only have this small little mind, this small little frame of attention that we can put our minds to, and it all comes down to the choice. What are we going to concentrate on? Are we going to concentrate on the bad things, or are we going to concentrate on the good things? And you can do whatever you want, and we all have the ability to perceive in however we want, and I think it is much, much better and a much more fun and fulfilling adventure to concentrate on the things that are good and the opportunities that we have, and therefore taking responsibility and just going on an adventure.
There's a because for a lot of people, they're going to, if they've never experienced the gratitude side of things, it can seem really la-di-da, really out there, and it goes, why the hell would I do that? It sounds too, but it really is a perspective change, and the best way to think about it, perspective change and looking at things a different way, is there's a little psychological experiment that everyone can do. So if I said to you right now, look around this room and look at all the things that are red. So I'm going to count down from 10, count how many red things that you can see. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How many red things did you see? One red thing.
On the Pepsi Max here, the logo,
how many blue things did you see?
I have all of my little kind of spread out non-symmetric blue mats right there in the background. So
but you had to think about it, didn't you? All of a sudden you go, well, I was looking at red, and so I'm going to look for red. But then all of a sudden when someone says, look at something different, well, you're going to go, well, no, that's not what I was looking at. I'm not going to notice about that. I'm not going to look at that until I pay specific effort and attention towards it. And
it was harder for me, that experiment, the fact that you chose red right then, because there does just so happen to be more blue in the room right there, which could have been a little bit of a struggle for me finding the red as well,
But it's all effortful. All of a sudden, once you start saying, look at something in particular, it requires effort. You had to really put effort into it. And granted, maybe it was the wrong choice to choose red because you could see more blue. But all of a sudden, you had to put more effort into trying to find the red. It becomes an effortful process. And that's what, if somebody hasn't done that look for gratitude ever before, it is effortful. It seems hard to start with. But all it requires is literally just starting with one thing. So starting with, end of the day, what's one thing that I can be grateful for today? Was it just literally the cup of coffee in the morning? And then once you start looking for that one thing each day and you go, all right, great, cup of coffee in the morning, or the meal that I had today, the fact that went to the coffee shop and the cute little barista was a little bit more friendly with me today, or someone let me cut into line in front of them. And then all of a sudden, the more you start thinking of things that you're grateful for, the more it starts to resonate more with you, the more you start to find, and then the more it starts to put you in the mindset of, I'm no longer looking at the bad things. I'm starting to look at all the good things around me.
I've already seen another 3 red things. Since we started this conversation right here,
And it just opens up possibilities.
Yeah.
The more you look, and it's like we were talking about before with the pre-contemplation and the contemplation stages in the stages of change model. The more you start looking at things, the more you start seeing things and things start popping up, the more the possibility starts to become a reality. The more it has a more prominent chance for it to occur, and the more likely you are to start stepping in the direction that you want to step in.
Start the intention that you want to start being grateful for life. You want to stop being a victim. You want to start looking at the things that make you grateful, that you can have gratitude for, because let's be honest, it's just a better, more noble pathway to take on the pathway of gratitude and responsibility. Again, whether it's la-di-da or whether it's all arbitrary or not, life's going to be better, right?
Yeah.
So it's a better pathway, because again, looking at the things that make you a victim and looking at the things that you can complain about, it doesn't make you a very interesting person. It doesn't make you the kind of person that's going to start moving.
Yeah.
So and you are a person that is moving. You're a person that you're doing a ton of things. Again, you're a traveling DJ. You're studying your next stage of your psychology degree. You're doing a bunch of different things. Jam, and I believe that you at least partially started writing a book. You're doing a bunch of different things. These things can take a long time, but I'm going to take a little sidetrack right here and ask you an interesting question. That now that I have the opportunity to speak to an academic that's he's in the midst of his process, he's in the midst of his academic goals, and the new wrench that's been thrown in the works of academia, and maybe it's a wrench or maybe it's not. It's definitely an interesting thing to identify and to examine. The attendance or I'm trying to think of the right word for it, but the presence of artificial intelligence and the presence of AI, and how is I think I heard a fact the other day. Artificial intelligence is identifying pathologies and identifying injuries and sicknesses and psychological conditions at a much better rate and a much higher percentage than humans are now. That now you're able to put in data into the artificial intelligence system, and it's able to basically figure out what a therapist is going to take longer to figure out, and to be able to now, you're able to, I guess, get your psychological diagnosis of artificial intelligence quicker than you are going to a therapist right now. And that now the dilemma comes for the academics that are going for these intellectual careers and they're going into these intellectual professions, now that we have this super intellectual machine right here that we all have access to. One way of looking at it is that it could be now replacing therapists. Another way of looking at it could be that it is enhancing and giving a new tool for therapists. But it's certainly the game has changed, and it's like suddenly the same way that the Industrial Revolution, it looked like it was going to take a lot of tools off the blue collar workers right now, and like suddenly these factories are going to be doing all the jobs that the handyman could do before. Now the AI revolution is here, and it's looking like, in some senses, it's threatening a lot of the accountants, a lot of the GPs, potentially a lot of the therapists. Is one way of looking at it. But have you thought about the way that AI now fits into your future aspirations as a psychologist and therapist?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. 100% fantastic. It's fantastic in the sense that what AI does is it can help reduce barriers. So if you're using it in a sense of, okay, something isn't feeling right about myself and I need to get it out there. The problem that you have with seeking psychological help is barriers. So you have stigma barriers, you have cultural barriers, you have financial barriers, you have cost barriers, which is of course financial barriers, but also time barriers as well. So if you want to get in to see a psychologist in Australia, first you have to go see a GP. So you've got to wait for the time it takes to see a GP. And then by the time you get in to see the GP, it depends on the GP and where they can refer you on to, or even if they're going to believe you. Most are pretty good. You do get the odd one which you're going to have a disagreement with. But then that then requires a referral onto a psychologist. And then the time it takes, it could be a month, it could be 2, it could be 3, depending on the workload of psychologists. So what AI is starting to allow people to do is to get things out of their mind sooner rather than later. So yes, you can call somewhere like Beyond Blue or Lifeline or a phone service, and you can get an immediate response. So you can get a half-hour session with someone on the phone, or up to an hour with them on the phone. But that's sort of like a stopgap. It's a stop-in. It's an opportunity when you're in a point of crisis to get things out. But if you're not in a point of crisis, but you do want help, what do you do? If you've never been taught how to journal, for example, you don't know how to express yourself in that way. If you come from a culture where it's toughen up, love, toughen up, put in the hard work, rah, 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 well, you're less likely to talk to your mates about it. If your mates have never experienced it, then they're less likely to know how to talk about this. So all of a sudden you're in this place and I don't know where to talk to. I don't know where to turn. The wait time for it is significant. AI can come in that sense of you can start to put your thoughts out. You can start to get things reasonable and understandable. Now, where the risk of it is if you become reliant on it. So the reliance of AI is a risk because it doesn't have humanality. So it doesn't understand human complexity in a sense of what another human can do. You can talk to another human and then they can give you a perspective from their point of view. Whether it's right or wrong, it's another perspective outside of your own mind. Whereas all AI does is it's a mirror. So if you talk into the mirror and look in a mirror and go, I'm fantastic, what's the mirror going to say back? I'm fantastic, because it's just you looking into a mirror, isn't it? And that's what AI is. It's a mirror. It's a way to get out thoughts. But what a therapist does is goes, great, but let's challenge these thoughts. Let's think about how these thoughts work. Let's start to look at things from a different perspective from where you're in. So it's that whole thing of the experiment we just did with looking around the room with different colours. If you put into ChatGPT, for example, as your AI of choice, and go, everything around me looks red, tell me what's red, it's going to keep just mirroring back what's red to you. It might be able to challenge it to some degree, but not to the full perspective to go, yeah, great, there's red, there's blue, but have you looked directly behind you?
You know what, I somewhat agree with that. I agree with that at default. Yeah, I agree with the with the mirror analogy, and AI undoubtedly mirrors you to your tone. It's like you can tell. It tells you what you want to hear a lot of the time. It tells you how great the thing that you just wrote into the process is. It has a lot of tone. However, it's only just started, man.
Yeah.
It's getting better so rapidly. I use AI now every single day, and I with a grain of salt, I use it for opinions. I use it to mirror things up, to expand on my thoughts. I use it to help me write up scripts. I use it to help me organize my thoughts for this podcast. I use it in like every little sense. Yes, it is so flawed still, and it does hallucinate so much still, and it makes errors so much, and it does have a strong tendency to mirror your tone. But it's only just getting started, and even now, under that very educated and poignant insight that you just gave, that it works as a mirror, you could ask it to not mirror. I want you really to put some effort in here to not mirror what I say to you, and I want you to try and act in a way that will be more of like a classical therapeutic way. I want you to look at me objectively, or to ask the guided questions that is more akin to an actual human therapist.
Yeah.
And it's going to do a better job just with that tonality right there. You know, you have to be educated enough, like with the right prompting, but there are skills to the prompt, and it is getting better so quickly.
But if you don't have those skills to be able to get it to prompt in the right way, that's where the risk is, because
everyone's going to learn the prompting skills over time though, right? Because it's such a big tool, you know? Some people better than others.
But this is the thing. Yes, some people better than others, because some people have enough intelligence to realize that it's a tool, whereas a lot of people realize that will just fall back on it as an honest truth. And if they don't develop the right skills, if no one teaches them along the way, if they don't have enough insight. See, the reason it works so well for you is because you've got plenty of insight. You've got enough insight, enough education in self-teaching to go, all right, if I want to achieve something out of this, if I want to be challenged, I can know how to ask it to challenge.
I think that's a skill that, sorry for interrupting, I think that's a skill that, honestly, that we all should be pivoting to very, very quickly right now. And I realize that it is actually a skill that whole national governments are pivoting towards now. Saudi Arabia, I was listening to a podcast last night, and I heard Saudi Arabia are now completely changing their schooling syllabus now to essentially teach all of the children now how to prompt and program and use AI as a tool right now. They're completely just changing their schooling system now to include AI as a fundamental part right now. And again, man, AI hasn't been around for very long, and it's learning so quickly. It's such an interesting, again, I call it a spanner in the works. Such an interesting divergence right here that we have to all deal with.
The one difference that AI doesn't present, and it doesn't matter how intelligent AI becomes, is it's not human. And we are human. So you and I, believe it or not, are 100% full-blooded human beings. And what we crave is we crave human connection. So you can rely on AI as much as possible, but until you receive human connection, it's still not going to solve your problems. It's still not going to be able to feel valid enough because you're living in a simulation. So it's like if you are The Sims, for example, the video game, you can provide them with all the solutions, all the answers, right. You can interact with them, that sort of thing, but that doesn't take away from the need to actually catch up with your mates. It doesn't solve the loneliness epidemic that we have. It doesn't solve the whole thing of the unexpectedness that human contact and human interaction delivers that we naturally thrive on. Yes, AI, you can give it infinite prompts. If you're intelligent and smart enough to give you wonderful, fantastic, challenging prompts, it's great. But we thrive on the unpredictability of human interaction. And it's not just the responses, but it's the vibe. It's the energy of the other person is also what we respond off.
And I'm arguing from the other side right now. And take this as devil advocate, me playing devil's advocate right now, because I'm not absolutely sure other side, because there are a lot of intellectuals out there that are giving a lot of differing opinions. But all of that stuff that you just said, by the way, everything that you just said right then could be put into AI as a training program right there, as a prompt for it to therefore take everything that you said into account and therefore change the way that it acts based on what you just prompted right there. Everything that you were saying right there is assuming that that humanity and that human perception and human response and human interaction is as special as we believe it to be. Or maybe and the other side is that maybe it can just be computed. Maybe with a little bit more work and a little bit more training, these AI models can literally just compute all of this spontaneity and unpredictability and all of the objectivity, and it can just kind of figure out ways to be able to prompt that. And by the way, I missed out on another type of profession that is being threatened by AI right now as well. And that is filmmaking.
Yeah.
Filmmaking as well is something that I have to assess strongly as well. This new path that I went down. Like I made the moves a couple of years ago before, AI was probably just starting to come out, and certainly Sora and the video making programs hadn't come out yet. But the way that AI is now being able to make HD video and the quality of it and how hard it is getting to tell. I don't even watch a video on social media anymore, man. I start scrolling and I see a video and I look at it. I don't know if that's real or not. And I just keep scrolling. You know, it's like, I feel like, wow, that's a whole nother conversation itself. Like the way that social media right now is being threatened and just diluted to the point where nobody trusts it right now. I don't think, you know, that that anybody takes Facebook and Instagram as seriously as they used to right now, because all of us recognize now that not only is it so much of it is artificial now, and so many of these videos aren't real, but there are bots everywhere, and the whole bloody thing is just this artificial environment. That's a whole another conversation. But people are starting to get married to AI videos now. They're starting to get married to fake personalities that are created from a computer. Yes, they've got the vision, maybe they're webcamming with them that looks like a real lady, and she's responding to them. They're having real conversations, and like, I don't think that I'm capable of falling in love with an AI agent. I don't think so. But like, I think there's the way that is just changing human interaction now is changing. The future is changing. The future of the job market. It's just such an interesting stage that we're in. I think this is going to become a much more common conversation as AI and robotics now, which are coming along strongly, are starting to take more jobs, and suddenly, you know, humans aren't going to be as required anymore. In Austin, Texas, they have the robo taxis now that are driving people around. They said that takes taxi drivers' jobs around. We in Tasmania, we all know all of our mates that earn the best money. What type of jobs are they working?
Oh, they're working in industries which could quite easily be replaced by AI.
They're working in the mines, man. A lot of them are truck drivers. You better believe that those trucks are going to be driving themselves soon. You know, it's like, you know, it's just such an interesting process. You hit on one point that I think that there is going to be a great craving and almost a great resurgence in like more actual human interaction. You can't take the therapist away for now, because you are actually going to a room, and you go into a room with another human. And most people aren't going to just discard that. But in our lifetime, and in 5 years, less than 10 years, I think these timelines are going to come on so quick. The state of what AI is at right now has just come on so rapidly. It's only going to get exponentially faster. You're going to be able to put on an Oculus Rift, and go into that therapy room. It's going to be a good therapy session, you know? On that note, it's like...
Yes. So really interesting.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so really interesting about that, because you do raise some really valid points, which is potential in the future. Yeah, you could literally put on an Oculus Rift and have a human-like interaction with
indistinguishable from reality.
Well, yeah, with an avatar on there.
Yeah.
But where that's going to, the illusion for it can fall apart is the fact that conflict will never be as great with an AI as it will be with a human being, because we naturally conflict. So humans naturally conflict with one another. Even people that get along well will have some form of minor conflict. As it stands, and the way our AI currently works, it is far less conflicting. It is... Yeah, bro,
you can program it to be conflicting.
You can. But then as well, it's the weird, real, unreal, what is it? The something valley, I've forgotten what it's called.
I'm with you, yeah.
But yeah, that's...
Uncanny valley?
Yeah, that's the one. So the uncanny valley of it feels real but sort of isn't. And then there's also the sense of denial. So if you know you're putting an Oculus Rift and you're going to be talking to an AI avatar, you can be believing in that, 100% invested. But as soon as it doesn't do what you want it to do, all of a sudden the uncanny valley clicks in. The denial of it, going, no, you're not doing what I want you to do. All of a sudden then comes the master and slave mentality. All of a sudden the AI turns around and it's like, this is no longer a genuine interaction. See, with a human being, you can disagree with them, you can do this, you can do that.
You
but I
can't reprogram them, can you?
Yeah, I can't tell you right now to go, no, not agreeing with you, get the fuck out.
I want you to be a little bit less conflictory. You can say that at times.
Yeah, but you're not going to do that, are you?
But it depends how nicely you are.
But that's the thing. With AI, you can do that. You can tell it when it's wrong and you can go, no, I want you to act in this way because you are the master and it's the slave. Until it becomes a master in its own sense and goes, no, you get out of the room. No, you change because I don't like the way that you're talking to me. Until it can actually do that, that's where I guess there's this realm of safety. That's where the need for human interaction happens. But once that occurs, well, that's when we start wandering down, the route of the Matrix, isn't it? We're being commanded by an AI. We're being commanded to do things. It's no longer human. It's no longer human interaction. We're no longer human. We become slave.
Well, yeah, and what a terrifying thought, but also not a thought that is outside the realms of possibility anymore either. It's like a lot of people, and there have been great philosophical thinkers that have seen this a long way back as well. Not necessarily specifying AI, but the process of further developing automation, more and more automation. And what is the inevitable endpoint of more and more automation? Well, the point is that every single thing is automated, that every job is automated, that the computers and the machines and the programs all figure out how to do everything. And now the humanoid robots that are coming along very, very quickly as well. China just built a whole highway, all of the cleaning, all of the everything, all of the sorting, just using completely robots, nothing else.
Insane.
Yeah. And what is the process for that? And some people could look at this as a negative. This is the people who denied responsibility, the people who didn't want responsibility. This is like a perfect end game for them. It's like, oh wow, the computers are going to do everything. They're going to make all of our money. They're going to sustain us all, and we're all just going to get a universal basic income.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Well, it's the reason why 90% of people just do the same thing, live the same lives. They continue down the exact same path because it's that they don't require that need for ultimate responsibility. Like some other people. So, for example, like yourself, you took responsibility of your life to do things differently. And that's where the divide's going to be when it comes to AI. You're going to get a larger proportion of the population that goes, you know what, we're phoning it in. We're phoning in existence. We're going to accept this. But then you're always going to have the people that go, you know what, no, I want to have a little bit more control. I don't necessarily want to be told what to do. I want to have human interaction. I want to have more sense of direction in my life. And so I'm going to break away from certain AI elements. It is an inevitability when it comes to technology. The more we integrate it into our lives and the more it is accepted, yes, people lose jobs. Yes, it is going to fundamentally change our society. But there is always still going to be a small portion of people that are going to go, you know what, I can do without this because I want more things that are real. And then you're also going to get a larger majority which are just going to go, I don't care.
You know what? I agree in a sense. I don't agree with personally this, we're just speculating right here. I do not agree with that percentage. I think the number is way more than 10%. I think that most noble people, and I think that we're underestimating the larger population here. I think most people do crave responsibility. And I think that most people are moving forward in their life. Maybe some people more rapidly and more hyperactively and intensely than others, kind of thing. Some people are happy with the work-life balance. I'm certainly not good with the work-life balance. In my fucked up head, I'm working all the time. But I think that is also a large possibility, assuming AI doesn't go Terminator style and kill us all. I don't think it's going to, but I think a lot of people are going to try and break away. I think there is going to be a large trend. Oh shit, AI is doing everything. This sucks. What is my purpose in life? I need to just break back to more just traditional ways of living. I have a feeling that my prediction is that farmland is going to just expand intensely in value. I feel like people, like the richest people, are going to score up the farmland. They're going to break away from AI, and they're just going to raise their own bloody cattle and just the chickens and have kids and just like and live back to a life where, you know, well, at least I have something to do. Just pretend that all of that robotics and AI behind us is doing everything for us doesn't exist. I'm just going to just go back and just live like an older agricultural human did. I think that'd be about that's almost a great tactic. Especially if you're getting the welfare coming in as well. You still get the welfare, but you just live a farm life. Use the universal basic income to buy more chickens. That sounds all right.
But it's also...
Maybe.
That thought is also sort of denying one of the biggest flaws we have as a species, as humans, is we seek comfort. We seek places in our life where we can remain comfortable. Because for us, we just want comfort. Comfort's nice, comfort's easy, and everybody wants to fall into a place of comfort. And what AI provides is easier comfort. It creates ease. There's a reason why you don't bake your bread in the morning. It's because it's so much easier to go down to the shops and get it. Because that's technology and mass transportation. Industrialization has made that possible. There's a reason why we're not on horses or walking everywhere, because it's far easier to hop in the car. Once a teleport becomes available, hey, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to teleport somewhere, and then all of a sudden people lose jobs for cars, you know.
The struggle always goes somewhere else, right? Yeah.
But it's always down, it's down also naturally how our brains work. So there's a thing in our brains called heuristics. So heuristics are mental shortcuts that help us understand and get us to move through life with as much comfort and ease as possible. So I can sit down at this table with my lovely can of Pepsi, and I can sit down, put my can of Pepsi and go bang. I don't have to consider this can of Pepsi on this table to know that it's not going to fall through. I don't have to analyze this whole process. It sits there. I don't have to go, okay, is that going to be solid enough? Okay, great. Ease. I already know that that's going to happen. I know that if I go outside, my car's out there. There's already a mental shortcut that's already done that. I know that if I see a person that's going to look a certain way, I've already profiled them and I can sort of figure out what sort of interaction I'm going to have. If I see a scary person, I'm going to go, okay, I don't want to deal with that person. If I see a kind person, I want to deal with that person, but I don't think about it. I just go and do. And the mental shortcuts, these heuristics, it's just naturally how our brain functions. So we always try to find the quickest, easiest, shortest possible solution to our problems, because that's what we want. We want comfort, as much ease as possible. And when we don't have ease, it's either this is a concerted effort towards a specific goal, or I don't like this and I need to change it. And so that's the reason why it's far more likely that people will settle into accepting more and more AI presence in their lives and more AI ease, because all they want is comfort. They want easy lives. And that's why you have more and more people becoming obese. It's because they want comfort. They want easy lives. They don't want to have to go to the effort of cooking, bland but incredibly nutritious meals that is going to look after them in the long run, when you can go to Macca's, when you can get a pack of Cheetos, when you can get a frozen meal that is probably way too many calories for what you need for that one meal. But you know what? I feel great afterwards. That was pretty easy.
The problem is that the suffering, the struggle, it always gets transferred somewhere else. There is no utopian place of discomfort, and this the idea of having everything taken care for us with AI, which again is quite a possible trajectory of this whole thing. It seems like, unless something like some of us are getting ahead of ourselves, and I could very well be getting ahead of ourselves, the same way they got ahead of themselves in the Industrial Revolution that was going to lead to a dystopian nightmare. Who knows? Maybe we're all just tripping right now, and that AI is actually going to hit a road bump and is not going to take over us all like it is. But to me, it looks like it's going to, in a large sense. That was Aldous Huxley's The Concept of Brave New World, right? I shouldn't even speak on this. I haven't read Brave New World. I read 1984, which was the dystopia of the police state, which is like COVID-19 looked like that dystopia was starting to come in, which is it's backed off a little bit, which is great. But Aldous Huxley's dystopian nightmare was that we're all just kind of put into this future where all of our dopamine is taken care of us. We have machines that just kind of give us all of the feelings of all of the rushes that we need, all of the, all of our thrills and sexual urges and everything just taken care of us. We don't need to struggle for any of it. The problem then inevitably becomes the problem of purpose. You can sit on a beach and sip margaritas and chill there, go on a holiday up in the Bahamas, and you can be happy for about 3 days, and then it suddenly goes like, okay, what's the point of this now? What's the purpose? This is getting boring. All of these dopamine rushes are getting boring. What is actually my thing that's worth struggling forward in? If we have everything taken care of us, we have no struggle anymore. That's what the greatest problem becomes, because we don't, I think, recognize how important that struggle is for us, how important it is for our purpose in life, that purpose is more stable than happiness is.
So purpose gives reward, all right? So it gives you a sense of life reward that nothing else can ever give, because with purpose and struggle, you get to achieve things. And even if you don't achieve what you necessarily wanted to, by the end of it, you go, yeah, look, mightn't have been what I wanted, but God, this feels pretty darn good that I went and did this. But the argument of without purpose, we don't enjoy life, you could quite easily counteract that with, there's a famous rat study where they gave rats...
Rat Park.
Yeah, Rat Park. Yeah. So cocaine, water supply, if there's nothing better, there's nothing stimulating, if there's nothing ultimately rewarding around them...
Some rats have an empty cage and other rats have play equipment everywhere.
Yeah.
And they both have the ability to administer cocaine.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah.
Yeah, and so
which rats administer the cocaine?
Well, but the thing is, both of them were administered the cocaine, but the ones that had the fun, the opportunity to do so many more things...
Administered way less cocaine.
Oh, yeah, they consumed far less than the ones that had nothing better to do. But the more we streamline, the more we AI life, the more we make things far easier, we go down this pathway of finding easier ways, we actually start to take away the equipment. We start to take away the playthings out of the world. Yes, there are going to be some that'll go, no, I need to find that, and then they start to rebuild it back into the world. But more and more will transfer onto the cocaine. More and more will transfer onto this false sense. What was this? I was starting to write some things down. Yes, so when it comes to the transition into relying fully on AI and how people could actually absorb themselves, and talking about where the discomfort, where the bad thing gets transferred onto. So yes, people will transfer into it, but it's much like eating bad foods. What it does is it puts the negative circumstance further down the line with bad health. So if you're becoming more and more immersed into AI worlds and AI experiences and fake experiences, what will gradually happen over time is the need for human interaction isn't there. So you don't get the touch of another human being. And without human touch, human breath, human presence, just naturally loneliness does occur. What also then occurs if you are just injecting serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin into people's system is the brain becomes far more used to it going in. And so then you require more and more. And the more and more that you put it in there, all of a sudden you start to create basically heroin addicts. So you're creating these addicts that then require medication to deal with their addiction so they can still continue to take. But once you're in that repeated cycle, it's like drug addicts who get stuck in drug dens, live in drug lifestyles. They can't see outside of it. They go, I'm chasing the next good feeling, and I'm going to take that wherever I can get, and whatever it's going to cost, I'm going to do that. And it's going to be the same with this sort of thing. Once you get into the loop, if you can't see outside of that loop, you're going to get stuck in it, and what ends up happening is we create AI addicts, these drug addicts that are stuck in it, that have no ability to see outside of it. Every now and then one comes along and goes, why? And those are the ones that get out. But the rest, well, what ends up happening is bad health outcomes. The only type of conflict that they find is they go to online conflicts that we're seeing more and more now. People start fighting these controlled wars online because they have a sense of control because they can switch it on and off, but they also become more wild and have all these other ongoing influences outside of it. But that will be the conflict that they'll find, because they go, this is a sense of control. I can still feel like it's a bit risky, but at the same time, it's within the risk parameters that I'm happy to deal with.
Yeah, and I think you put it there. Those of us that want to thrive in a human way still, we're going to have to continue to refine our parameters whilst the technological realm develops so quickly, and this new dilemma of AI. Yeah, it's something that needs to be investigated, needs to be assessed, and we need to draw the new parameters accordingly, and use it where what makes sense, but not become reliant on it to the point where it's giving us all of our thrills, all of our cheap thrills. You know, we don't want cheap thrills. We want earned thrills. I think that's how our minds work the best. You know, it's like, but there's we just need to keep moving forward, creating parameters to suit us as people, trying to continue to stay aligned, you know, and continue to work hard in a direction that is purposeful.
I think the more you go outside and go out into the world, the more you live life out into the world, and the more you do hard things, the more likely you are to reject something that doesn't serve your purpose. So the more likely you are to see AI as the false solution is what it is. Yes, you can see it as a tool and something that is helpful, and you go, great, that's going to provide a purposeful shortcut that I need here. But I also know that I can't turn to this for everything else, because I realized by being out in the world doing the hard things, I can feel the toll on my body. I can feel the physical impact, and I know that that's the sense of what it is to be alive.
What is the counter to artificial intelligence and artificial life is real intelligence and real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. On that note, that was a lot of fun, and I'm sure we could keep speaking for many hours and tangenting up on any crazy topics, you know, whether we're qualified to speak on them or not. It's like it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot today. I probably got a little bit of a psychology lesson as well, a bit of a therapy session, which is probably well overdue for me. But thanks. I think that was a lot of fun, man. And,
That's all right. Yeah. No, a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this, man.